The morning sun streamed through the worn curtains of Lily's small bedroom, casting warm patterns on her faded quilt. Today was different from all other Saturdays. Today, Lily would attend her first fancy party. She sat on the edge of her bed, reading the cream-colored invitation card for the 100th time. Her cousin Zoe was turning 13, and her parents had rented the grand ballroom at the Westwood Hotel for the celebration. Lily ran her finger over the embossed letters, still not quite believing she'd been invited. "Are you up, sweetheart?" Her mother's voice called from the kitchen, followed by the familiar sound of a pan being placed on the stove. "Breakfast in 10 minutes." "Coming, Mom," Lily replied, carefully placing the invitation back on her nightstand. Their apartment was small but clean, filled with second-hand furniture that her mother had lovingly restored. The walls were decorated with Lily's drawings and old family photos, most featuring her grandmother, who had passed away last winter. Lily missed her every day. In the kitchen, her mother was flipping pancakes, her uniform for her second job already laid out on a chair. Today she would be working as a server at the same hotel where Zoe's party was being held. "I've ironed your blue dress," her mother said, sliding a plate of pancakes toward Lily. "It looks really pretty with that white ribbon we found." Lily nodded, but her stomach tightened with worry. The blue dress was her best, a hand-me-down from their neighbor's daughter that her mother had altered to fit her. But she knew it wouldn't compare to the designer clothes Zoe and her friends would be wearing. "Mom, maybe I shouldn't go," Lily said quietly, poking at her pancakes. "I won't fit in with everyone there." Her mother sat down across from her, reaching for her hand. "Lily Rose Cooper, you belong anywhere you choose to be. Your worth isn't measured by the price tag on your clothes. But Zoe's friends are so—" Lily struggled to find the right word. "Rich?" her mother offered with a small smile. "Money doesn't make them better, just luckier in some ways. And you've got plenty they don't have." "Like what?" Lily asked skeptically. "Like your music," her mother said simply. "And your heart." Lily thought about the old keyboard her grandmother had given her when she was 7. For 3 wonderful years, Grandma had taught her to play, showing her how to feel the music rather than just read the notes. When the keyboard finally broke beyond repair and her grandmother fell ill, the lessons had stopped. But the music remained inside her, like a secret language only she and Grandma had shared. After breakfast, Lily got ready, allowing her mother to pin her long dark hair into a neat style. They couldn't afford a gift, so they had made a beautiful card together with Lily drawing a portrait of Zoe surrounded by flowers. The bus ride to the Westwood Hotel took 40 minutes. Lily clutched her handmade card while her mother, already in her black and white server's uniform, checked her watch frequently. "I need to go in through the staff entrance," her mother explained as they approached the gleaming hotel. "Can you find the ballroom on your own?" "It's on the 2nd floor, just off the main staircase." Lily nodded bravely. "I'll be fine." Her mother squeezed her hand. "I'll see you inside, but remember I'll be working. If you need anything urgent, find me, otherwise just have fun. I'm so proud of you for coming today." The hotel lobby was enormous, with marble floors and crystal chandeliers that made Lily feel even smaller than her 12 years. She followed the signs to the main staircase, her worn ballet flats silent against the plush carpet. Music and laughter drifted down from above. With each step, Lily's courage faltered a little more. By the time she reached the ballroom entrance, her hands were trembling. The room was transformed into what looked like a scene from a movie. Twinkling lights hung from the ceiling. Tables were decorated with flowers and ribbons, and a DJ played popular songs from a booth in the corner. At least 30 kids, all dressed in expensive clothes, filled the space. Lily spotted Zoe immediately, surrounded by friends in the center of the room. Her cousin looked like a princess in a pink dress that probably cost more than everything in Lily's closet combined. Gathering her courage, Lily made her way over, card in hand. Zoe looked surprised to see her. "You came," she said, giving Lily a quick hug that smelled of perfume. "I didn't think you would." "Happy birthday," Lily said softly, handing over her card. "I made this for you." Zoe opened it, her eyebrows rising slightly. "You drew this? It's really good." She sounded genuinely impressed, which made Lily stand a little taller. "Thanks for inviting me," Lily said. "Of course. We're family." Zoe smiled, then turned as someone called her name. "I have to go greet some people. The food table is over there, and there are games set up by the windows. Have fun." Just like that, Lily was alone again in a sea of strangers. She drifted toward the food table, taking a small plate of fruit and a cupcake, then found an empty chair along the wall where she could watch the party unfold. From her spot, she observed the room. The adults were gathered in one area, talking and laughing. The kids had broken into groups, some dancing, others playing games, many just talking in tight circles that seemed impossible to join. Through a door on the far side of the ballroom, Lily caught glimpses of her mother and other servers carrying trays of drinks and appetizers. Her mother didn't look her way, focused on her work, moving efficiently between guests. After finishing her food, Lily wandered around the edges of the room. That's when she saw it, partially hidden behind decorative screens in a quiet corner. A magnificent grand piano, its polished black surface gleaming under the soft lights. Lily froze, her heart suddenly racing. It was so beautiful, so much grander than her old keyboard. Without thinking, she moved toward it, drawn by an invisible force. The piano bench was padded with red velvet. Lily stood beside it, just looking at first. Then very gently she reached out and touched one white key, not pressing down enough to make a sound, just feeling its cool, smooth surface beneath her fingertip. "What do you think you're doing?" The sharp voice made Lily jump. A girl with sleek blonde hair and a designer dress was staring at her, eyebrows raised. "I was just looking," Lily said quickly, pulling her hand back. "That's a Steinway concert grand," the girl said. "It probably costs more than your house." Two more girls joined her, their expressions curious and slightly mocking. "Do you even play?" one asked, looking Lily up and down. Before Lily could answer, another girl laughed. "Of course she doesn't. Look at her dress." Heat rushed to Lily's face. She glanced across the room and saw her mother watching with concern while balancing a tray of drinks. "I used to," Lily said quietly. But the girls were already laughing, the sound cutting through the party noise. A few more kids turned to look, and Lily heard whispers and more laughter. Even Zoe was watching now, looking uncomfortable but not stepping in to help. "As if she knows how to play something like that," someone said loudly enough for everyone to hear. Lily's eyes burned with unshed tears. She should walk away, find a bathroom to hide in until her embarrassment faded. That would be the sensible thing to do. But as she started to turn, she caught sight of a photograph on the wall behind the piano. An older man sitting at this very instrument, his hands poised over the keys, his face filled with joy. He looked so happy, so at peace with the music. It reminded her of her grandmother, of all those evenings spent side by side on their small sofa, the keyboard balanced across their laps as her grandmother's weathered hands guided her own. "Music isn't about who you are or what you own," her grandmother had told her once. "It's about what you feel inside. That's something nobody can take away from you." Lily looked back at the magnificent piano. The laughter continued around her, but somehow it seemed less important now. The piano was calling to her, offering something that had been missing from her life for too long. She had a choice to make. Walk away in shame or sit down and show them who she really was. The laughter felt like tiny needles pricking Lily's skin. She stood frozen beside the magnificent piano, her cheeks burning with embarrassment. From across the room, she caught her mother's worried glance as she balanced a tray of appetizers, unable to come to her rescue. "Maybe she thinks it's a really fancy table," one boy snickered, earning more laughs from the growing circle of onlookers. Lily's eyes fell to her worn shoes. She should walk away, find a quiet corner to hide in until this horrible party ended. That's what the reasonable part of her brain was screaming at her to do. But something else was happening inside her, a quiet rebellion, a spark of defiance lit by the memory of her grandmother's gentle hands guiding hers across old plastic keys. "Don't let fear steal your music," Grandma had told her once. "The world has enough silence already." Lily raised her eyes slowly, looking not at the laughing kids but at the piano itself. Its polished surface reflected the twinkling lights of the ballroom, like a midnight sky filled with stars. The instrument seemed to be waiting for her, patient and indifferent to the social drama unfolding around it. In that moment, a strange calm washed over her. What did she have to lose, really? These weren't her friends. Their opinion of her couldn't possibly get any lower. Before her courage could desert her, Lily gently moved the bench back and sat down. The velvet cushion felt soft beneath her, a stark contrast to the hard wooden chair she'd used at home with her old keyboard. The laughter faltered slightly, replaced by curious murmurs. "Is she actually going to try to play? This should be good." Someone should stop her before she damages it. Lily took a deep breath and placed her hands on the keys, struck immediately by how different they felt from her old keyboard. Heavier, with a resistance that demanded respect. She pressed one key experimentally and a pure, perfect note rang out, silencing the whispers around her. The sound was so beautiful it almost hurt, nothing like the tinny electronic tones of her keyboard. This was a real note, vibrating through wood and wire and air, traveling straight to her heart. For a moment, Lily hesitated, suddenly aware of all the eyes watching her. What if she messed up? What if her fingers failed her after so long without practice? What if... She closed her eyes. The room disappeared. The judgmental stares, the fancy clothes, the crushing awareness of her own inadequacy, all of it faded away. In the darkness behind her eyelids, she saw her grandmother's kitchen, smelled the cinnamon cookies baking, felt the worn keys beneath her smaller fingers. Music lives in your heart, not your hands, her grandmother had said. Your hands are just the messengers. Lily took another deep breath and began to play. The first few notes were tentative, like a child testing the temperature of a pool before diving in. It was a simple melody, one of the first her grandmother had taught her, Für Elise by Beethoven. Her fingers remembered the pattern even though her mind was clouded with doubt. As she continued playing, her confidence grew. The weight of the keys became familiar, like greeting an old friend after a long absence. The melody flowed from her fingers, filling the ballroom with its delicate beauty. The laughter had stopped completely now. Even the DJ had lowered the background music, allowing Lily's playing to take center stage. Emboldened by the silence, Lily transitioned into another piece, Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major, her grandmother's favorite. It was more complex, with rich harmonies and emotional depth that had always seemed beyond her skill level. But today, on this magnificent instrument, her fingers found their way through the piece as if guided by an invisible hand. She still hadn't opened her eyes. She didn't need to see the keys. She felt them. The music poured out of her, no longer just notes on a page, but an expression of everything she couldn't say with words. Her grief for her grandmother, her loneliness at school, her mother's exhaustion after working double shifts, and somewhere beneath it all, a resilient hope that refused to be extinguished. Across the room, a server's tray clattered to the floor, but Lily didn't hear it. She was lost in the music, riding its waves like a seasoned sailor navigating a familiar sea. The piece reached its emotional peak, and Lily's small body swayed with the music. Her hands, which had seemed so inadequate moments ago, now commanded the keyboard with surprising authority. She played not with technical perfection, there were missed notes and uneven tempos, but with a raw emotional honesty that couldn't be taught. As she approached the final section of the piece, Lily finally opened her eyes. The room came back into focus, and she was startled to see that a crowd had gathered around the piano. But instead of mocking smiles, she saw wide eyes and open mouths. Some people had phones out recording her performance. Others simply watched, transfixed. Near the back of the group stood her mother, tears streaming down her face, the empty tray clutched against her chest. Their eyes met briefly, and her mother gave her a watery smile and a small nod that said everything. I'm proud of you. Keep going. Lily finished the piece with a gentle cascade of notes that seemed to float in the air even after her fingers left the keys. For a moment, complete silence filled the ballroom. Even the air conditioning seemed to hold its breath. Then the applause began. Tentative at first, like the first raindrops before a storm, then building to a thunderous roar that made Lily blink in surprise. People were clapping, some were cheering, and a few were wiping tears from their eyes. Zoe pushed through the crowd, her expression a mixture of shock and awe. Lily, I had no idea you could play like that. Why didn't you ever tell me? Lily shrugged, suddenly shy again now that the music had stopped. Our keyboard broke a long time ago. I haven't played in years. Years? A tall man with silver hair stepped forward, his eyes wide with disbelief. And you can play Chopin like that without regular practice? Lily looked down at her hands, unsure how to respond to the question. My grandma taught me. She said if you feel the music in your heart, your fingers will remember even when your mind forgets. The man shook his head in wonder. Your grandmother was a wise woman. I'm Professor Chen, by the way. I teach at the Westwood Conservatory of Music. Lily's heart skipped a beat. The Westwood Conservatory was famous throughout the region, known for producing some of the finest musicians in the country. "Do you take private lessons?" he asked. "No, sir," Lily replied, feeling her cheeks warm again. "We can't. I don't have a piano anymore." Understanding flickered in his eyes, but there was no pity in his expression, only genuine interest. "Well, that's easily remedied," he said, reaching into his pocket for a business card. "We have practice rooms at the conservatory that students can use. And we also have a scholarship program for exceptional talents." He handed the card to Lily, who took it with trembling fingers. "Call my office on Monday," he said. "I'd like to arrange an audition for you. A formal one without all these distractions." Lily stared at the card, unable to form words. An audition? A scholarship? It seemed impossible, like something from one of the fairy tales her grandmother used to read to her. Before she could respond, the blonde girl who had laughed at her earlier pushed forward, her expression completely transformed. "That was amazing," she said, her voice sincere for the first time. "I've been taking lessons for 6 years and I can't play half as well as you do. I'm sorry about what I said before." The apology caught Lily off guard. She nodded, accepting it without quite knowing what to say. More kids gathered around, asking questions and offering compliments. The same people who had laughed at her moments ago now wanted to know how long she'd been playing, who her teacher was if she performed regularly. Through it all, Lily felt strangely detached, as if watching the scene from above. This sudden attention was overwhelming, almost as uncomfortable as the ridicule had been, but in a completely different way. She caught sight of her mother, who had resumed her duties but kept glancing over, her face glowing with pride. Their eyes met across the room, and in that moment, Lily knew that something significant had shifted in her life. Professor Chen was talking about practice schedules and repertoire choices. Zoe was insisting that Lily play at her next birthday too, and someone was asking if she took requests. The voices blended together like background noise while Lily ran her fingers lightly over the piano keys one more time. The cool ivory beneath her fingertips felt like a promise of music still to be played, of stories still to be told through melodies. She had come to this party feeling invisible. Now, ironically, all she wanted was to disappear back into the comfort of anonymity, but there was no going back. The music had revealed a part of her that couldn't be hidden again. As intimidating as this new attention felt, there was also something exhilarating about it. For the first time in her life, people were seeing her, really seeing her, not for what she wore or where she lived, but for what she could create. For the music that had lived inside her all along, waiting for the right moment to emerge. Lily smiled to herself. Grandma would have loved this moment. Perhaps in some way she had been there all along, guiding Lily's fingers across the keys, helping her find her voice in a room full of strangers. The weekend passed in a blur for Lily. Saturday night after the party, she could hardly sleep, her fingers twitching on her blanket as if still playing that magnificent piano. Sunday dragged on endlessly as she waited for Monday to arrive so she could call Professor Chen. "Do you really think he meant it?" she asked her mother for the 10th time as they washed dishes together Sunday evening. About the scholarship? Her mother dried a plate carefully before answering. "I've been serving at events where Professor Chen attended for years. He doesn't say things he doesn't mean." She set the plate down and turned to Lily, wiping her hands on a dish towel. "But honey, I don't want you to get your hopes too high. Even if there is a scholarship, these things are competitive." Lily nodded, but the spark in her eyes didn't dim. "I just want to play again, Mom, even if it's just for a little while." Her mother's expression softened. She pulled Lily into a hug, resting her chin on top of her daughter's head. "Your grandma would be so proud of you. She always said you had music in your soul." Monday morning came with agonizing slowness. Lily had asked her mother if she could stay home from school to make the call, but her mother had insisted that education came first. "Call after school," she'd said firmly. "The conservatory will still be there at 3 o'clock. School was torture." Lily couldn't focus on fractions or the water cycle when her mind kept drifting to the feeling of those piano keys beneath her fingers. During lunch, she sat alone as usual, but today she hardly noticed. She was mentally practicing, her fingers tapping silently on the cafeteria table. When the final bell rang, Lily raced home, arriving breathless at their apartment. Her mother had left a note on the kitchen table. "Gone to work. Leftover pasta in the fridge. Call Professor Chen. Love you." With trembling hands, Lily took out the business card. It was cream-colored with elegant black lettering. Professor David Chen, Director of Youth Programs, Westwood Conservatory of Music. Below that was a phone number. Lily stared at it for several minutes, suddenly afraid. What if he'd just been being nice? What if he'd already forgotten about her? What if this was all a big mistake? She thought of her grandmother, who had never been afraid to speak up or try new things even when others doubted her. With that memory giving her courage, Lily picked up their old landline phone and dialed the number. Westwood Conservatory. How may I direct your call? A friendly voice answered. I'm calling for Professor Chen, Lily said, her voice barely above a whisper. My name is Lily Cooper. He gave me his card at a party on Saturday. Oh, yes. The receptionist's voice brightened. Professor Chen mentioned you might be calling. Let me transfer you to his office. There was a brief silence, then a familiar voice came on the line. Lily, I'm glad you called. I was beginning to worry you might not. I was at school, Lily explained, relaxing slightly at his warm tone. Of course. Well, I've been thinking about your playing since Saturday. It was quite remarkable, especially considering you haven't had regular practice or lessons in years. Lily twisted the phone cord around her finger, unsure how to respond to the compliment. I'd like to schedule a proper audition for you, Professor Chen continued. Nothing formal, just a chance for you to play without a crowd of partygoers watching. Would Wednesday after school work for you? Yes, sir, Lily replied, her heart racing. But she hesitated, then decided honesty was best. I don't have any way to practice before then. We don't have a piano. There was a pause on the line. That's not a problem for the audition, Professor Chen said thoughtfully. But it would be for ongoing study. Let me think about this. Do you have any way to get to the conservatory today? I have a free hour before my next lesson. Lily glanced at the clock. It was 3:30. Her mother wouldn't be home until late. I can take the bus, she said, already calculating the route in her mind. It would take about 40 minutes. Perfect. If you can be here by 4:30, I can give you a tour of our facilities and let you try out one of our practice rooms. It would give you a chance to get comfortable with the piano again before your audition. Really? Lily couldn't keep the excitement from her voice. I can come right now, Professor Chen chuckled. I'll let the front desk know to expect you. Do you need directions? No, sir. I know where the conservatory is. Lily had passed the imposing stone building many times, always wondering what it would be like inside. After hanging up, she scribbled a quick note for her mother, grabbed her backpack and hurried to the bus stop. The ride felt endless, even though she knew exactly how many stops there were between her apartment and the conservatory. When she finally arrived, the building looked even more intimidating up close, all granite and columns, with large windows and a sweeping staircase leading to the entrance. Lily paused at the bottom of the steps, gathering her courage once more, then climbed toward the heavy wooden doors. Inside was a large foyer with a polished marble floor and walls lined with photographs of famous musicians. A woman at the reception desk looked up as Lily entered. You must be Lily, she said with a warm smile. Professor Chen is expecting you. Down that hallway, third door on the right. Lily thanked her and walked slowly down the corridor, hearing faint music coming from behind various doors. A violin being practiced in one room, scales being played on a flute in another. The sounds blended together in a strange, beautiful cacophony that made her feel both excited and nervous. The third door on the right was partially open. Lily knocked tentatively. Come in, Professor Chen called. His office was smaller than she'd expected, but cozy, with bookshelves lining the walls and a baby grand piano in the corner. Photographs and certificates hung everywhere, and piles of sheet music covered most flat surfaces. Lily, welcome. Professor Chen rose from behind his desk, extending his hand. Thank you for coming on such short notice. Lily shook his hand, trying to hide how overwhelmed she felt. Thank you for inviting me. Professor Chen gestured to a chair. Please sit. I'd like to talk a bit before we go to the practice room. Lily perched on the edge of the seat, her backpack clutched in her lap like a shield. First, I want to tell you that what I heard on Saturday was special, Professor Chen began. I've been teaching for 30 years and I don't often encounter a natural talent like yours, especially one that has survived without formal training or regular practice. Lily looked down, unused to such praise. But talent alone isn't enough, he continued, his tone becoming more serious. It takes hard work, dedication, and regular practice to develop that talent into something lasting. I would practice, Lily said quickly. Every day if I had a piano. Professor Chen nodded. That's exactly what I wanted to discuss. Our scholarship program typically covers lessons and theory classes, but not instruments. However, we do have a piano loan program for exceptional cases. Lily's eyes widened. A loan program? Yes. We have several donated upright pianos that we lend to promising students who otherwise couldn't afford one. They're not new or fancy, but they're well maintained and perfectly adequate for practice. Lily could hardly breathe. A real piano in her own home? It seemed too good to be true. Of course, Professor Chen added, there would be conditions. You would need to practice regularly, attend all scheduled lessons, and participate in student recitals, and your mother would need to agree to provide space for the piano and ensure it's properly cared for. She would, Lily exclaimed, then lowered her voice. I'm sure she would. We don't have much space, but we could make room. Professor Chen smiled at her enthusiasm. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. First, the audition. Then we'll discuss the details with your mother if you're accepted into the program. He stood up. Now, how about we find you a practice room so you can get reacquainted with a proper piano before Wednesday? Lily followed him down another hallway, passing more practice rooms where students of various ages were working on their instruments. They stopped at a door marked Practice Room 7. This one should be free for the next hour, Professor Chen said, opening the door to reveal a small room with an upright piano against one wall. It's nothing fancy, but the piano is in tune. Lily approached it almost reverently. It wasn't as grand as the piano at the hotel, but it was still a real piano, not an electronic keyboard, but an instrument with strings and hammers and a wooden soundboard that would resonate with each note. Go ahead, Professor Chen encouraged. Get comfortable with it. I'll come back in about 45 minutes to check on you. When the door closed behind him, Lily sat on the bench and placed her hands on the keys. The weight felt different from the grand piano at the party, but familiar nonetheless. She began with simple scales, reacquainting herself with the feel of the instrument. Then she moved on to the pieces she remembered best. First for Elise, then the Chopin nocturne she'd played at the party. As she played, the years without a piano seemed to melt away. Her fingers remembered things her mind had forgotten. The pressure needed for different dynamics, the subtle timing that gave the music its emotional depth. Time disappeared. Lily was lost in the music, in the pure joy of being able to play again on a real piano. She didn't hear the door open or notice Professor Chen standing there until she finished the piece and his applause startled her. Remarkable, he said, shaking his head in wonder. Most students who take a long break from playing need weeks to get back to their previous level. You've done it in an hour, Lily blushed. It feels like I never stopped somehow. Professor Chen nodded. That's how it is with true musicians. The music is always there waiting. He checked his watch. I have a student arriving soon, but you're welcome to stay and practice until we close at 6. Will your mother be picking you up? No, sir. I'll take the bus home. A slight frown crossed his face. It will be getting dark soon. Are you sure that's safe? Lily nodded. I do it all the time. Our neighborhood isn't dangerous, just not fancy. Professor Chen seemed to consider this, then nodded. Very well. But next time we'll arrange transportation for you. Part of our scholarship program includes transportation vouchers for students who need them. He moved toward the door, then paused. By the way, I've scheduled your audition for Wednesday at 4:30. It won't be anything intimidating. Just myself and 2 other faculty members. We'll ask you to play 2 or 3 pieces of your choice. Lily's stomach tightened with nerves, but she nodded. I'll be ready. As Professor Chen left, Lily turned back to the piano, determined to make the most of every minute she had with it. Wednesday's audition wasn't just a chance to play. It was an opportunity to change her life, to bring music back into her home, to make her grandmother's memory proud, to transform the laughter of Saturday into something meaningful and lasting. Her fingers returned to the keys, and the small practice room once again filled with music that seemed too big, too powerful, too beautiful to be coming from such a small girl with second-hand clothes and a world of determination in her heart. Wednesday arrived with gray skies and a light drizzle that turned the city streets shiny and slick. Lily woke before her alarm, her stomach already twisted with nerves. Today was audition day. Her mother had taken a rare morning off to accompany Lily to school and discuss the conservatory opportunity with her teachers. They needed to understand why Lily might occasionally miss classes or need extra time for assignments if she was accepted into the program. "Remember," her mother said as they walked to school under a shared umbrella, "no matter what happens today, I'm already so proud of you." Lily nodded, but inside, she felt a pressure she'd never experienced before. This wasn't just about playing piano anymore. It was about opportunities, about futures, about doors opening that had always been firmly closed to people like her. School crawled by even more slowly than Monday had. Lily's math teacher caught her tapping out fingerings on her desk during a lesson about decimals. "Lily, are you with us today?" he asked, not unkindly. "Sorry," she mumbled, hiding her hands in her lap. At lunch, something unexpected happened. Tanya, a quiet girl who sat near Lily in English class, approached her table. "Is it true you played piano at some fancy party?" she asked, setting her lunch tray down. "Everyone's talking about it." Lily looked up in surprise. "How does everyone know about that?" Tanya pulled out her phone and turned it toward Lily. "Your cousin posted a video. It's got like 500 views already." Lily stared at the screen in shock. There she was, sitting at the grand piano, her eyes closed and her small body swaying slightly as she played the Chopin piece. The video quality wasn't great. It had been shot from several feet away and the ballroom lighting created strange shadows. But the sound came through clearly enough. "That's really you?" Tanya asked, her eyes wide with newfound respect. Lily nodded, unsure how to feel about her private moment being shared online. Part of her was embarrassed, but another part felt a strange pride seeing the comments under the video. "Who is this girl? She's amazing. Those rich kids probably paid for years of lessons and she shows up and plays like that? The way she feels the music. You can't teach that." "I didn't know," Lily said finally. "About the video, I mean." "Well, you're kind of famous now," Tanya said with a smile. "At least in our school." Throughout the rest of the day, Lily noticed people looking at her differently. Some students who had never spoken to her before nodded hello in the hallway. Her gym teacher asked if she was the piano prodigy everyone was talking about. Even the principal stopped her between classes to congratulate her on representing the school so well. It was strange and a little overwhelming. Lily had spent years being practically invisible, and now suddenly everyone seemed to see her. When the final bell rang, Lily found her mother waiting outside in their neighbor's borrowed car. "Mrs. Wu let us borrow it for your big day," her mother explained, as Lily climbed in. "I didn't want you showing up to your audition soaking wet from the rain." Lily glanced at her mother's tired face and noticed the extra makeup covering the dark circles under her eyes. "You didn't have to take the whole day off, Mom." Her mother reached over to squeeze her hand. "Yes, I did. Some things are more important than one day's pay. This is your moment, and I wouldn't miss it for anything." The drive to the conservatory took less time than the bus had on Monday. As they pulled up to the imposing building, Lily's mother let out a low whistle. "Fancy place," she said, trying to sound casual, though Lily could hear the nervousness in her voice. "Your grandma would have loved to see you here." They were met in the lobby by Professor Chen, who greeted Lily's mother warmly. "Mrs. Cooper, it's a pleasure to meet you. I've seen you working events, of course, but we've never been properly introduced." Lily's mother shook his hand, looking slightly embarrassed. "Thank you for giving Lily this opportunity, Professor. It means the world to her." "The pleasure is all mine," he replied. "Your daughter has a remarkable gift. I'm just glad I happened to be at that party to hear her play." He turned to Lily with an encouraging smile. "Are you ready? We have practice room 3 reserved for you to warm up before the audition." Lily nodded, though her heart was racing so fast she thought it might burst from her chest. "Can my mom come with me?" she asked in a small voice. "Of course," Professor Chen said. "Mrs. Cooper, please come with us. I'd like to explain the program to you while Lily prepares." The practice room was larger than the one Lily had used on Monday, with a baby grand piano instead of an upright. While Lily began warming up with scales, Professor Chen explained the scholarship program to her mother. "If Lily is accepted, and based on what I've heard, I have every reason to believe she will be, the scholarship would cover weekly private lessons, music theory classes, and participation in our youth ensemble," he explained. "We would also provide a loaned piano for home practice, transportation vouchers, and all necessary sheet music and materials." Lily's mother looked overwhelmed. That sounds inexpensive. Professor Chen smiled. The conservatory was established with the mission of making music education accessible to talented students, regardless of financial circumstances. We have several generous donors who fund our scholarship program specifically for students like Lily. And what would be expected of her? Her mother asked, the practical question of someone used to looking for hidden catches. Commitment, Professor Chen answered honestly. We would expect regular practice, attendance at all lessons and classes, and participation in student recitals. It's a significant time investment. As they discussed details, Lily focused on the piano, letting her fingers reacquaint themselves with the weight and feel of the keys. She played through Fur-Elise first, then the Chopin Nocturne, and finally a simple piece her grandmother had taught her, a folk melody that had always been their special song. After 20 minutes, Professor Chen checked his watch. It's time. Are you ready, Lily? She took a deep breath and nodded. The audition will be in our small recital hall. There will be 3 faculty members listening, including myself. Just play as you did at the party, from your heart. Lily's mother gave her a quick hug. You'll be amazing, she whispered. Just like Grandma taught you. The recital hall was intimidating, a formal room with about 50 chairs arranged in rows facing a stage where a gleaming grand piano waited. 3 people sat in the front row, Professor Chen and 2 women Lily didn't recognize. Lily Cooper, Professor Chen announced formally, auditioning for the Youth Scholarship Program. As Lily walked to the piano, her legs felt wobbly. The walk from the door to the stage seemed to take forever. When she finally reached the piano bench, she sat down and stared at the keys, momentarily frozen. Whenever you're ready, one of the women said kindly, take your time. Lily closed her eyes, trying to calm her racing heart. She thought of her grandmother's kitchen, of the old keyboard they'd shared, of the simple joy of making music together. Music is just organized emotion, her grandmother had told her once. Find the feeling first and the notes will follow. Lily opened her eyes and began to play. She started with Fur-Elise, her fingers moving with growing confidence as the familiar melody filled the hall. The acoustics were better here than in the practice room, and each note seemed to hang in the air a moment longer. When she finished, she moved directly into the Chopin Nocturne without pausing. This time, knowing she was being evaluated, she paid more attention to technique, the phrasing, the dynamics, the pedaling. But as the piece progressed, she found herself once again lost in the music, playing more from heart than from memory. The 3 judges watched intently, occasionally making notes on their clipboards. Lily tried not to look at them, focusing instead on the keys beneath her fingers. For her final piece, she chose her grandmother's folk melody. It wasn't technically challenging like the Chopin, but it carried emotional weight for her. As she played the simple, haunting tune, she felt her grandmother's presence so strongly that tears pricked at her eyes. When the last note faded, there was a moment of complete silence. Then the 3 judges leaned together, whispering among themselves. Lily sat frozen on the bench, afraid to move. Finally, Professor Chen stood up. Lily, would you please wait outside with your mother for a few minutes while we deliberate? Her mother was waiting in the hallway, pacing nervously. How did it go? She asked as soon as Lily appeared. I don't know, Lily said honestly. I played okay, I think. But they're still talking about it. They sat together on a bench in the hallway, neither speaking, both lost in their own thoughts. Lily's hands were still trembling slightly from the adrenaline of the performance. After what seemed like hours, but was probably only 10 minutes. The door opened and Professor Chen beckoned them back inside. The 3 judges were still seated in the front row. Professor Chen gestured for Lily and her mother to join them. Mrs. Cooper, Lily, he began formally. The committee has reached a decision regarding Lily's application to the Youth Scholarship Program. Lily grabbed her mother's hand, squeezing it tightly. We have been teaching and evaluating young musicians for many years, Professor Chen continued, and it is rare that we encounter a talent as natural and unaffected as Lily's. Despite her lack of formal training and regular practice, she demonstrates remarkable musicality, emotional depth, and technical instinct. He smiled warmly at Lily. It is therefore our pleasure to offer Lily a full scholarship to the Westwood Conservatory Youth Program, including weekly private lessons, theory classes, ensemble participation, a loaned piano for home practice. and all necessary materials. Lily's mother gasped, her free hand flying to her mouth. Lily herself sat in stunned silence, unable to fully process what she was hearing. Additionally, Professor Chen added, we would like to offer Lily a spot in our annual Young Artist Showcase next month. It's an event where our most promising students perform for the community and our donors. I don't know what to say, Lily's mother stammered. This is beyond generous. It's not generosity, Mrs. Cooper, one of the other judges spoke up. It's investment. Talents like Lily's deserve to be nurtured, regardless of financial circumstances. When can she start? Her mother asked, practical even in her excitement. As soon as possible, Professor Chen replied. We can arrange for the piano to be delivered to your home this weekend, and lessons could begin next week. We'll need to assess Lily's music reading skills and theory knowledge to develop an appropriate curriculum. But that can all be arranged in the coming days. He turned to Lily, who had remained silent throughout the exchange. Lily, are you happy with this arrangement? Was she happy? The word seemed too small to contain what she was feeling. This wasn't just about playing piano again. It was about being seen, being valued, being recognized for something that came from deep inside her. Yes, she said simply, her voice steady despite the emotions swirling inside her. I'm very happy. As they left the conservatory, the rain had stopped and weak sunlight broke through the clouds. Lily's mother kept shaking her head in disbelief. A real piano, she murmured, in our apartment. Your grandma would never believe it. Lily smiled, thinking of her grandmother's hands guiding hers on the old keyboard, of the laughter at the party that had turned to stunned silence, of the path that had opened before her, a path that had always been there waiting for someone to notice, waiting for her to be brave enough to follow it. She would believe it, Lily said softly. She always said the music was inside me. Now everyone else can hear it too. 1 month had passed since the audition, and Lily's life had transformed in ways she could never have imagined. The old upright piano now occupied the corner of their small living room where the TV used to be. The television had been relocated to a small stand in the kitchen, a compromise her mother had made without complaint. Music feeds the soul better than those reality shows anyway, she had said when the delivery men from the conservatory had arrived with the piano. It wasn't a fancy instrument. The wood was scratched in places, and some of the keys had yellowed with age, but to Lily, it was more beautiful than the grandest concert piano. It was hers to play every day whenever she wanted. Her schedule had changed dramatically. 3 days a week, a conservatory van picked her up after school and took her to lessons, private instruction with Professor Chen on Mondays, music theory with Mrs. Abernathy on Wednesdays, and youth ensemble on Fridays. The other days, she hurried home to practice, often playing until her mother had to remind her to eat dinner. Today was special, though. Today was the Young Artist Showcase, and Lily's stomach had been in knots since she woke up. What if I mess up? She asked, picking at her breakfast. What if I forget the notes? Her mother placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Then you'll keep going just like your grandma taught you. But you won't forget. You've practiced that piece 100 times. It was true. For the past month, Lily had worked tirelessly on Debussy's Clair de Lune, a piece Professor Chen had suggested for the showcase. It was more technically challenging than anything she'd played before, but he believed she was ready for it. It suits your sensitivity, he had told her during their first lesson, and it will show the audience the depth of your musicality. The piece had been difficult at first. Lily struggled with the timing, with the delicate balance of the harmonies, with the pedaling that created the dreamy atmosphere the music required. But day by day, hour by hour, the piece had begun to take shape under her fingers. Now, as she got dressed in the new outfit her mother had bought for the occasion, a simple blue dress with a white cardigan, Lily ran through the piece in her mind, her fingers moving silently in the air. Ready? Her mother asked, appearing in the doorway. She looked different today, too, wearing a dress instead of her usual work clothes, her hair styled carefully. Lily nodded, though her heart was racing. She wasn't just nervous about playing. She was nervous about the audience. Professor Chen had mentioned that many important people attended the showcase: conservatory donors, music critics, even talent scouts from prestigious music schools. They're coming to discover the next generation of musicians, he had explained. This is a chance to be heard by people who can open doors for your future. The ride to the conservatory was quiet, both Lily and her mother lost in their own thoughts. When they arrived, the parking lot was fuller than Lily had ever seen it. People in elegant clothes were making their way into the building, holding programs and chatting excitedly. "Looks like a full house," her mother commented, trying to sound casual, though Lily could hear the nervous pride in her voice. Backstage, a dozen other young musicians were warming up, adjusting their instruments or pacing nervously. Most were older than Lily, and all were dressed in their best clothes. A boy with a violin was playing rapid scales in the corner. Two girls with flutes were comparing fingerings for a difficult passage. Professor Chen found Lily and led her to a practice room where she could warm up on a piano. 15 minutes until we begin, he told her. "You're performing ninth on the program, so you have some time." "How are you feeling?" "Scared," Lily admitted. Professor Chen smiled kindly. "That's natural. Even professional musicians get nervous before performances. But remember, you've done the work. You know this piece inside and out. Now it's just about sharing it with others." Lily nodded and began her warm-up exercises. As her fingers moved across the keys, some of her nervousness began to fade. The music was like an old friend now, familiar and comforting. All too soon, a staff member came to tell her it was almost time. Lily was led to the wings of the main concert hall, a much larger space than the small recital hall where she'd auditioned. Peering around the curtain, she could see hundreds of people seated in the audience, her breath caught in her throat. On stage, a teenage boy was finishing a virtuosic piece on the cello. The audience applauded enthusiastically as he bowed and left the stage. An announcer stepped up to the microphone. "Next, we are pleased to present one of our newest scholarship students. At just 12 years old, she has already demonstrated extraordinary musical sensitivity and natural talent. Playing Claude Debussy's Clair de Lune, please welcome Lily Cooper." The applause started as Lily walked onto the stage. The lights were bright, making it difficult to see individual faces in the audience. But she spotted her mother in the third row, sitting next to Professor Chen's wife. The grand piano waited center stage, its lid raised to project the sound to the back of the hall. Lily sat down at the bench, adjusted it slightly, and placed her hands in her lap, taking a moment to gather herself as she'd been taught. In that brief moment of silence, memories flashed through her mind. Her grandmother guiding her hands on the old keyboard, the laughter at Zoe's party, the shocked faces as she played, Professor Chen's kind encouragement, the hours of practice at her new piano, her mother falling asleep on the couch listening to her play late into the evening. All of it had led her here, to this moment. Lily lifted her hands to the keys and began to play. The opening notes of Clair de Lune floated into the concert hall, gentle and hesitant like the first drops of rain. Lily focused entirely on the music, on capturing the delicate, dreamy quality that made this piece so beloved. As the music built slowly, her initial nervousness melted away. The audience disappeared. The pressure of the occasion faded. There was only Lily and the piano and Debussy's beautiful, impressionistic harmonies painting pictures of moonlight on water. Her hands moved with newfound confidence, finding the subtle dynamics that gave the piece its emotional depth. The middle section flowed with a quiet intensity, building toward the climax where the melody soared above rippling arpeggios. Lily swayed slightly as she played, her face reflecting the changing moods of the music, now serene, now yearning, now quietly joyful. This wasn't just a performance. It was a conversation between Lily, the piano, and the composer across the century that separated them. As she approached the final section, where the opening theme returns in a more reflective mood, Lily thought of her grandmother. She would never hear Lily play this beautiful instrument in this beautiful hall, but somehow, Lily felt her presence more strongly than ever, in the music, in the way her own hands moved across the keys, in the emotion that welled up inside her and flowed through the notes. The final chords of the piece dissolved into silence, lingering in the air like a remembered dream. For a moment, the concert hall was completely still, as if the audience was collectively holding its breath. Then the applause began, tentative at first, then building to a roar that startled Lily out of her musical trance. She stood and turned toward the audience, bowing as she'd been taught. The applause grew louder. Someone shouted, "Bravo!" From the third row, Lily could see her mother wiping tears from her eyes. As Lily left the stage, her heart was pounding, but no longer from fear. This was a different kind of excitement. The thrill of connection, of sharing something meaningful with others and seeing it touch them deeply. Backstage, the other young musicians congratulated her. "That was beautiful," the boy with the violin told her. "You made me see the moonlight." Before Lily could respond, Professor Chen appeared, his face glowing with pride. "Magnificent," he said. "Truly magnificent. There are several people who would like to meet you after the showcase." The remaining performances passed in a blur. After the final bow, when all the young musicians gathered on stage together, Professor Chen led Lily to a reception area where audience members were gathering for refreshments. Her mother found her first, wrapping her in a tight hug. "Your grandma would have been so proud," she whispered. "I swear I could feel her there with us." Lily nodded against her mother's shoulder, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. The next hour was a whirlwind of introductions. A composer wanted to know if Lily would consider playing one of her new pieces at a future concert. The director of a summer music program invited her to apply for a scholarship. A music critic asked about her background and training, scribbling notes as Lily explained about her grandmother's teaching and the recent conservatory scholarship. As the reception was winding down, Professor Chen approached with an elegant older woman Lily didn't recognize. "Lily, I'd like you to meet Mrs. Eleanor Westwood," he said. "Mrs. Westwood is the granddaughter of our conservatory's founder and one of our most generous supporters." The woman extended her hand with a warm smile. "My dear, your playing was exceptional. I've attended these showcases for 40 years, and few performances have moved me as yours did tonight." "Thank you," Lily said shyly. "Professor Chen tells me you've been playing without formal instruction until recently," Mrs. Westwood continued. "That makes your musicianship even more remarkable." Lily glanced at her mother, who was standing nearby, before responding. "My grandma taught me. She wasn't a professional, but she loved music more than anything." Mrs. Westwood nodded thoughtfully. "The most important qualities in a musician cannot be taught. They must come from within. You have those qualities in abundance." She turned to Professor Chen. "I'd like to establish a special fund for Lily's continued education, not just for the next few years, but looking ahead to conservatory studies when she's ready." Professor Chen's eyes widened. "That's extraordinarily generous, Mrs. Westwood." "It's an investment in the future of music," she replied simply. Looking back at Lily, she added, "All I ask is that you continue to play with the same honesty and emotion you showed tonight. Technical perfection can be achieved with practice, but the ability to touch hearts, that's a rare gift." Later that evening, as Lily and her mother rode home in a taxi, another luxury provided by the conservatory for showcase performers, they sat in stunned silence, trying to process everything that had happened. "Does this mean I can keep studying music, even after high school?" Lily finally asked. Her mother nodded, still looking dazed. "It seems so. Mrs. Westwood is apparently very influential at the conservatory. Professor Chen said he'd explain everything in detail on Monday, but..." She shook her head in wonder. "Your life has changed, Lily. Everything has changed." As they arrived at their apartment building, the taxi driver helped them out. "Heard you played piano tonight?" he asked Lily. She nodded, surprised. "My daughter was there. She's studying violin at the conservatory. Said you were amazing. Said you made everyone cry with that moon song." Lily blushed but smiled at the unexpected compliment. Inside their apartment, the upright piano waited in the corner, its presence now the center of their home. Lily ran her fingers lightly over the keys without pressing them. "Are you too tired to play a little?" her mother asked. "I'd love to hear that piece again in our own home." Lily sat down at the bench and began to play Clair de Lune once more. The sound was different on this smaller piano in their tiny living room, but the emotion remained the same, perhaps even stronger in this intimate space where her journey had truly begun. As the final notes faded, Lily thought about the strange path that had led her here, how a moment of ridicule had become an opportunity, how laughter had turned to applause, how a door that seemed firmly closed had suddenly swung wide open. "Thank you, Grandma," she whispered to the empty air, somehow certain that somewhere, somehow, her grandmother had heard every note.